Carlito will be just 1 minute.
How do you all have the storage on your phone to record these things? Doesn't it be like your storage? Tell me about it.
A lot of cloud uploads. Yeah. Anytime you get a break, just start uploading things really fast.
Is it AirDrop?
Some of them
I use Google Docs.
She uses Google Docs.
What's that? I don't know what that is.
Either that or you end up getting a higher end memory on the phone so that you have lots of room. And you get back to the hotel room and you download stuff.
Okay. I just be ringing one E going, can I borrow your phone? Mine didn't have enough memory.
My camera.
I wouldn't know how to download. I don't really bad.
Yeah, but I don't really like having my photo taken.
That's what I'd have, that little thing.
Well,
That's
thank you. I just pretend I like it, but I don't.
It's like April O'Neil and the Turtles or something. Do you remember?
It's an uncomfortable thing. It really is. Acting is fine because you're acting in a world, but when you're a photo is like. Where do I put my hands? I don't know.
I'm very
but if you put your arm around one person, not the other person, everyone's going to think you hate the other person. And can't win.
And there we go.
Yeah, exactly.
What drew me to the project? I mean, I think the script pretty much spoke for itself. All the time when you hear about these like thriller type of movies, there's always some type of bank robber or person breaking into a house. A person you're trying to keep out of a house, but you never really have anything on valet workers or valet drivers. So once I actually saw that these guys weren't this complete masterminds where they're going away, they have this elaborate scheme of how they're going to walk away with $1 million worth of stuff. Like, no, they're pretty much the worst criminals ever, and they're breaking into houses and walking away with items and materials that you really wouldn't even know that you're missing. Books or small little credit cards.
That's
and things
actually quite clever, though.
Yeah, it's quite clever, but we don't give ourselves that much credit, at least.
Yeah,
like we think we're doing a good job, but realistically, we walk away with $5 sometimes. So I mean, just that alone, and actually seeing that David Tennant was attached to it, and just seeing where the characters went, that automatically just pulled me in, and I was hoping that I would book the role.
It was suspenseful, though. Like, I read it, and when you're reading it and you can't put something down, I always say if I have to take a break reading a script, it's not the script for me. And I just read it straight through. And then you audition, and when I met with Dean, it's a big thing is the relationship that you're going to have with the director, and if how they're going to shoot it, is the style and the way that you see the film, and make sure that you balance out those things. And it was lovely. He's lovely.
I like the idea of playing that part, it just seemed kind of fun to do, I suppose. And also David being attached again, because if the person opposite me was somebody I didn't really think was that great, I wouldn't have done it because it would be too hard. It wouldn't be good. And then also a big thing was Dean had his own distribution company within the company, and like it's all well and good sometimes doing a movie, but you don't know if it's going to get distribution. And so knowing that was kind of a guaranteed thing because he was going to do it himself, that was a big pull too, because I'm like, well, at least it's going to get released. I mean...
Also, I'd never done a film before, so there was like a big aspect of me that I was very trying to put. Yeah, it's my first movie.
Killed it.
Yeah.
Little star.
So like, sometimes you put energy out. I'd done television, and I just knew stylistically it wasn't what I really want to do, so it came back, which is nice. Yeah.
When you're in the moment, besides the fact that you're in the character and you have to just you have to kill it every single time, he just makes you want to do that much better. It depends on what set that you're on, where rehearsal is a big thing. Usually you just mark the movements of what you're gonna do. When I saw him in rehearsal, how he was just in it before they even yelled action, it just automatically just kept me on my toes, and I knew that I had a lot more scenes to do with this guy left to do with him, and it just made me if anything, it made me intimidated in the right way to actually be like, no, I'm here, I booked this role, I'm gonna do great, and I'm gonna give it my best, because I see he's obviously doing it before they even yelled action. I haven't even done my scene with him yet, and I see that he's in it, so yeah.
Again, it depended on the scene, you know what I mean? I couldn't, as Kerry or as a spectator, stand back and be like, excellent, David, do you know what I mean? In the scene with them. No, I wouldn't have, like, fear, I don't know. I was kind of mixing it with kind of like really fucking hating him. And the fear starting to turn into what I would do to you if I was able to, and making it like that, because I thought that was a little more interesting to play. So, you know, playing fear just one note
It takes
all
her
the
out
time.
of being a victim as well. It gives her a little power.
It just gets a bit boring as well, just playing fear, you know. And
Yeah, Dean is definitely all about safety first. You know, he wants to make sure that we don't get hurt, even for stunts that we know we can do by ourselves. He'll make sure that there's a stunt double just to make sure that we're okay. But he didn't say anything about us freezing our balls off. It was really cold, guys. It was like negative.
so much snow.
It was so much snow. Okay, it never snows in
beautiful.
Portland,
Like
so I
ice
hear.
storms.
It never snows in Portland, and last time it snowed was like 10 years ago. It was like 5 different storms while we were there.
Nice.
But we had to get these shots, you know. So I think it helped us. It made me a little bit more vulnerable, and it made me want to kill every single take because I needed to get inside. Because I was freezing. I'm like, okay, done, and I would run inside. So yeah, that definitely helped.
I'm Canadian, so it wasn't that cold. Like, I always think when it snows and all of those things just add to the experience of like making a movie, you know? Like every single person on set, be like the person working the boom, is also going through that, and it becomes a family and a team, and it's inclusive when something's thrown at you like that. It's not just everybody doing their roles and going home. It's like we're all dealing with this thing together. Yeah.
Getting in the chair every day, that was a bit, you know, that like from the very first time that we practiced it, I just had a plan that I was just going to zone out when they were putting it all on, like to completely like kind of not think of anything and zone out, because if you start to think about it, and the guys who were doing it were getting kind of nervous because they kept having to check who had the key to which lock, you know, and they had to have this kind of choreographed way of doing it because they had to be all on a specific way. And I was like, we have the key, and telling me they have the key, and everyone was more worried. So it was easier for me to just like completely like not pretend and that's not that none of it was happening. And then it was like, okay, yeah, because I think everybody felt really like it was so weird. And
Seeing that chair, it was like it's like when you go to a museum and you see like the torture, like the tortured stuff, and you looking at that and knowing that she's gonna have to like actually sit in it. It's like the most uncomfortable.
And then to take off the chains took ages too. So I'd, like once I'm in it, like I'd have to be in it for ages, and then it would be like I couldn't pee, so I'd be like, God, I can't have coffee, can't have water.
They just need a potty underneath.
Just cut a hole in the seat and just let it go.
Oh, you just finished for the chains on.
Exactly. I threatened it a few times. I was like, I'll have to go to the loo if you're not careful.
Okay, so I live in New York, and Dean, I literally just met him because it was all through Skype and all the technology now. And he's like, have you seen Hamilton? And I'm like, no. And he's like, why not? And I was like, because it is so expensive and impossible to get tickets. And he goes, all right. So I get 2 tickets delivered to my trailer to go see Hamilton in New York the next week, which is crazy because like the wait list is insane. And I go, and then Paul McCartney sat behind me.
Oh, wow.
Also sat behind me.
I went to my first strip club in Portland.
The one with the Mexican restaurant attached to it?
I don't know. It was like right down the street from
It was
the
right down the
hotel.
street. Yeah. They also have
Carson
a vegan Mexican restaurant attached to it, which I think is funny.
I thought it would be a lot nicer. In the movies, it looks so much fun, but I was like, this is not what I thought was that it was gonna be like. Like I respect all the working girls there, but it just it was an experience.
It's an experience.
And then I had to like make it rain, but I was the only one there doing it. So like everyone else is putting like $2 or $2, and I was just like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I threw it up, and then no one yelled, and so I left afterward. I'm like,
That's so true.
all right, never going to a strip club ever again in my life. Thank you. This is the reason why
Also,
I
the
don't come.
only ATM, because the restaurant was on the other side, was in the strip club
Yes.
part. So I had to walk through it to get my money out to pay for my burrito.
Down the
But they
street.
got good food there, though. They got
Great
Mexican
food.
Like at first, I started
Yeah.
doing music. Then when I
Well, there's a
got
splinter
like
group.
18 years old is when I first booked my first film, and then from there it was like music and acting. Right now, I'm on another series called Step Up High Water, and the character I'm playing is a young homeless R&B singer. So I'm singing on the show, you know, on top of, you know, so it's cool that everything's coming
I
full
cannot
force, where I can be on a series that I can act, sing, and dance. So Second album just came out a few months ago. We're working on the third album now, so plan is to be like the Latino Justin Timberlake in a sense where he's releasing albums, he's acting, he's writing, he's producing, he's doing all that. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Good for you.
Thank you, my love.
I believe you do this.
I'm trying. I would say Daddy Yankee definitely. Bad Bunny, he's got a wave right now. Maluma's killing it. Ozuna would be great to have any records with him. And to somehow get on a record with Ricky Martin, man. Even though he doesn't do any reggaeton type of stuff, but if you got the legend Ricky Martin on the reggaeton record, Prince Royce can probably get it done. But it'd be dope.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'm shooting the second season of Salvation on CBS at the moment, which is a little bit, it steps into the sci-fi genre, but isn't fully. And second season should be pretty good, actually. Yeah.
And I do the voice of Friday on the Avengers, and that's coming out a week before our movie. Yeah. So you'll be saturated with me. And then, and Better Call Saul, season 4 of Better Call Saul.
And then Step Up High Water, which is out, just came out January 31st, and waiting on the second season. So, and East Los High, which is out as well on Hulu. So.
We already have your musical taste there.
Yes.
So what kind of music do you guys enjoy?
Ooh.
Favorite band?
Ooh, I don't have a favorite. Depends on the mood I'm in.
Okay, so what kind of music?
I like
you listen to when you're pissed off.
Yeah.
When I'm pissed off. My own voice. That's what I listen to as I rant and rave. Okay, when I'm restrained and pissed off, probably kind of suicidal music, like, do you know, Radiohead or something to really bring me down, you know, just downer than down. But then I like everything. I don't know. That's hard for me. Classical, I love everything. Love women singers, but I know what I don't like. This is a good tip for you now, if you want to lose me. I don't like men being too soppy. I don't buy it. I think they're trying to win me over by sounding really romantic, and I don't buy it.
What about, like, the legends in, like, the 60s?
Don't like it. I mean, I like the voice, I love the beat.
You like the voice, but you don't like the, like...
I don't like a man being too lovey-dovey or something. Play hard to get, or, you know.
Rick James.
Don't lie.
He's the 80s.
Yeah.
I love me some Rick James. I mean, Rick James is awesome. Rick James is the truth.
I love music. I worked on a show called Roadies, which was like a dream a little bit. Because we had a new band that played every episode, which is insane. But I'm like a big Stevie Nicks fan. I love like 1930s jazz is a big one. I'm just starting to get into classical music, so if you have any recommendations, please send it my way, because I didn't grow up with that.
I don't like classical now.
I just don't know that much about it. Yeah, that's where I have been, and I'm slowly being introduced. It's blowing my mind. Yeah.
All sorts of feelings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But Brandon made a horrible mistake. He allowed me to see the script before other people did. And as soon as I saw it, I called him up and said, "You're not allowed to show this to anyone else because I'm going to go make this movie." I like suspense. I like the terror of real horror as opposed to, the stuff that's way over the top. In other words, there's nothing in this movie that can't or hasn't already really happened. So there's this fear as you watch the film. It's like, this could be me. I could be in that situation. This whole concept that he came up with of that we hand our keys at a valet, and on that key is usually the key to our house. And our car has a registration that has our address in it. But we don't even think of these things. So I mean, it just as I read it, it resonated for me.
I've just been interested in, I guess, for probably the last couple of years, just these things that we put a lot of faith in, whether it's locks or passwords or things like that, and how if somebody with a mind to do so wanted to exploit and break through every one of those, how incredibly vulnerable you are instantly become. For me, the horror of this movie is not as much, what Kerry Condon's going through. It's exactly what we're talking about. It's somebody getting into your life and then systematically trying to dismantle it, and the repercussions of that.
We've been up in Portland now since 2007. And and we have 4 sound stages, and over the years between doing the TV series Leverage and then doing Librarians, we've developed this huge prop warehouse, this huge costume warehouse. We own our cameras, our dollies, our lights, the trucks. So we had our own little studio, and when the script came along, I thought, this is exactly the kind of movie that'll get destroyed if you try and do it at a studio. If you get a big studio involved, you're going to cast it incorrectly. You're going to change it based on whatever was the last hit movie, not what's right for the movie. And I said, I really need to do a movie properly, or I might never direct again. So we just said, you know what, we're going to roll the dice. So we just wrote a check, and we made a movie. And we hope to God we didn't make a really bad decision. I mean, when I first read the script, I was just so blown away by the whole thing. And then we started talking about actors. And there's certain actors that you always bring up just because you're desperate to work with them. And I've tried to cast David in the last 5 things I've done. And for a variety of reasons, I couldn't. And some of it was studios not understanding what a big star is. And so Brandon was my real partner on this, by the way. You know, a lot of times a guy comes and writes a movie, and then you bring in 10 other writers who do rewrites, and they're not allowed on the set. Brandon and I were attached to the hip through this whole making of the film. So as we went to cast it, we started talking about people. And then I kind of sheepishly said, well, you know who I'd really like? And then he said, that's a pretty cool idea. How do we get him? And then we begged, borrowed, and stealed. But at the point we started talking about it, I hadn't seen that yet. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this guy's literally the greatest villain ever.
I'm the complete opposite. I've never seen Dr. Who. So the way I came to David was through Jessica Jones and Broadchurch. That's what I saw. And that's why I thought, well, of course this guy can do it. He's exactly this guy. And so it was, for me, the revelation of David was what a great guy he is, and how charming and funny, and his sense of play that he can bring to something. That was all the stuff that I learned once I got to know him.
But I think the thing is that this really is a morality play. And, you know, I think that traditionally in these things we have super Joe Average guy in extraordinary situation, and Joe Average guy is a super great guy who gets stuck in a bad situation. Our lead character is not so clean. I mean, he lies to his girlfriend. He is a thief. He's not a bad person, but he's also not the greatest guy either. And he's trying to find himself. He's a young kid who's on a kind of a messy path. And it leads him to this really, truly horrible decision. And then the big question is, if you've made a horrible decision like that, what happens after that really defines you. And this character literally could not live with the idea that that moment defines him. So he has to erase that moment, even if it means losing his own life in the process. He'd rather die than live forever as the guy who made that terrible decision. And I think that's probably the biggest difference, in that it's not the common good man in a bad situation. It's a bit more morally ambivalent character who's made a really, really bad choice. So we did a lot of preparation on this movie, and from the lenses we used, from the fact that we used almost no light whatsoever. I mean, almost all of this film was in natural light. How close the camera was to the actors. You know, normally I've got much longer lenses and I'm farther away, and I had to talk to the actors and say, the camera's going to be uncomfortably close to you. You're not going to be accustomed to having a camera this close to your face. But by doing that, it created this awkwardness, this tension. Every single aspect of this was different than anything I'd ever done before. And that was both incredibly exhilarating and absolutely terrifying. And I really did not know if I had completely screwed up until we had that first screening. And we were there together, and we're both in the back of the room going, oh my God, I hope this works. And then when we heard the people screaming and then laughing and then cheering, it was just the greatest moment ever.
There's no comfort zone for the people in this movie, and we realized, I think sort of instinctively, we need to be out of our own. That said, you know, this might be the second film that Dean has directed, but this is a guy who's spent his life in the film business, is one of the, you know, is a showrunner of incredibly successful television, understands every aspect of this business. But the thing that I knew all that going in. What I didn't know until the second we started talking was his facility with actors, and then I remembered you were an actor all the time, and then and that
And him too. He's in the picture.
And being an actor, I could hear the way that Dean was talking to an actor and giving them something that was very playable and understandable, instead of results oriented, but telling them sort of what the kind of talk that an actor needs to get that performance out of him. And he did that day one, and I was like, okay, we're gonna be okay.
We'll be in 2,500 screens on May 4th. Terrifying, but yes. So Legion M is a grassroots company. I mean, by nature, they are literally owned by their own fans. And so what we're working on with the Legion is they're going to organize screenings. They're going to do giveaways. They're going to all the conventions, even the ones I can't go to, they're going to. And we're going to really try and reach out directly to the customer and say, we think you're going to like this product. And if we can convince them, hopefully they'll talk to other people. But, the Legion has over 30,000 people across the country and in Canada. And they're organizing screenings, they're organizing parties to watch the movie, to discuss the film. So, if this movie succeeds, it's really going to be from the bottom up. The best thing to do is to talk about it on social media. Use the hashtag Bad Samaritan. Spread knowledge about it. Get people to watch the trailer. The trailer is our best tool for understanding the movie. And if enough people know about it and we show up on tracking, we won't just be in 2,500 screens, we'll be in the best 2,500 screens. I described how the studios were absolutely sure that the audiences would hate the character in that moment. Now, they didn't say that because they're stupid. Had we had an actor who couldn't pull this off, you would have hated him. He would have been a liar, he would have been a thief, and he would have been this terrible guy who left this girl behind. But what they didn't factor in is a brilliant actor who could really reach to the depth of that moment. I think without Robbie's performance, it really easily could have gone south. But we made a commitment as filmmakers not to hedge it in the script. We said we're going to trust an actor to get us there because we thought it was a lot more interesting. But, in a normal movie, he'd have been, a guy who works at an orphanage, who's the sweetest kid in the world, who's taking care of his ill mother, and then these bad things happen to him, and we love this guy, we hate that this happened to him. We wanted to not love this guy until he earns our love. But to do that, you really needed a great performance. And I'm going to go out on a ledge here, but I think Robbie Sheehan is the best actor under 40 today. And, well, I found him from the TV show Misfits. And I was crazy about him on that. But I'll tell you a little story. So we're in the middle of shooting the movie. And again, it's low-budget film. And Robbie comes to us and he says, I have to fly to San Francisco this weekend. And I said, Robbie, you can't do it. I said, if anything happens Sunday night and the plane's delayed or the plane's canceled, we're screwed. We can't afford to not have you show up Monday morning. I'm sorry, I can't let you go. And he said, but Peter Jackson is asking me to audition for the lead of his new film. I said, I'll pick you up at your hotel and drive you to the... And he got it. He's the lead of Mortal Engines. So he's about to explode as a giant star. And he deserves it because he's fantastic.
And he I'll say it again, he just wasn't afraid to bring that vulnerability and those flaws that the character has. Unfortunately, there are a lot of stars who just don't want to look bad, and that's kind of what leads to them, the studio notes saying, can't you make the guy work in an orphanage, or can't we give him something more heroic to do? And that just wasn't the movie. It just wasn't as interesting. So good on him for being able to do it, and you for finding him.
And I think there's something about him being Irish too that worked.
We have two Irish actors and a Scottish actor. So
But the other two are playing Americans.
Yeah, he's playing Americans and he's playing himself. Honestly, on those days, I'm just an actor. I mean, I think that we did the first shot, and the first day we were sort of outside, freezing, and afterwards our cinematographer our camera operator came up to me holding, one of the marks, and he says, "Have you ever seen one of these? Because you obviously don't know what this is for." so it was Gary. So, but on those days, I've done my work, so I have to just be an actor. With improvisation, I probably granted a little bit more license with improvisation, but then again, I kind of feel like I had it right on the page at that point, and if I don't, then that's a problem with the writing. So, but it was fun, and I appreciated the opportunity.
He was misbehaving on set. I had to call the writer down. The writer had to talk to him and say the lines like I wrote it.
Originally, this story took place in Los Angeles with two American kids, and as we were talking, as Dean and I were talking, and he wouldn't shut up about this guy Robbie Sheehan. So I'm like looking him up, and I'd watched Misfits, and I thought, well, yeah, he actually is great. But then we realized that really could be part of the story. Is that he came here came here with his mom, who's remarried an American, and we just sort of worked out this whole story about he didn't really want to come here. He doesn't really like that stepdad, and that all factored into the relationship that made that a lot richer and gave him something to play. And it just put kind of a chip on his shoulder, And Robbie's got Robbie's kind of like that, and and to his advantage, and he just fell right into that. So. I think it was a great choice, along with moving it to Portland, which really gave it a feel and a look and a tonality, and it helped the time of year, unlike LA, which the seasons never change. And Dean has done a couple of shows up there, and frankly was so dialed in that we just Dean already knows every location in Portland, and so that really helped.
He knows everything about every psychopath that ever lived. Literally, I would suggest an idea for the character, and he would say, no, that's not how they think. And then he'd bring out these books, and he would show me in the books the way a psychopath. And I was like, okay, I get it now. So yeah, he's incredibly well versed in people with twisted minds. The thing that's interesting is that we had actors who were very good, but also had different styles. As they were talking about before, Tennant literally can turn it off the minute you say cut. He's literally, the shape of his face changes. And then you say action, and it changes. It's amazing. He had this shark-like dead eyes thing that I don't know how he did, but he just, as soon as he said action, which is cut, it went away. And then he was just himself. On the other side, Robbie, for instance, there's a section where he's tied up and he's in the snow and he's beaten, and it was freezing that day. There was literally a blizzard happening. And after every cut, everyone's running to the tent to be warm, and he would stay out there. And we'd say, what are you doing? And he said, no, my character's being tortured right now. I have to sit here. And he stayed there in the cold the whole day. And his lips were getting purple, and I'm getting worried he's going to get sick. But that was his way to get to that place. And so you'll see there's the showdown in the movie. You've seen the film. There's a showdown between David Tennant and him. And they're so intense, both performances, and both approached it completely differently. But they both got to the same place through different roads. But we were very careful. Like, for instance, a lot of the movie Kerry is tied up. And, we literally, I put on the chains first to show her, and then we had another person put it on first. We really wanted her to feel confident that she wasn't going to be injured physically. And when you see the performance, it looks like everything hurts, but that's her performance. So yeah, I'm not a believer in putting actors or crew members at risk when you shoot a movie. I just don't think it's worth it. I think we have all kinds of great digital effects. Like, there's a moment in the movie, it's a tiny moment, but when the car hits the other car and you see it, digital. I don't need a car to hit another car. There's a beginning part where there's a horse being whipped to digital. I didn't hurt no horse. I got no horse getting tortured.
No blowing up a house.
No. Everything.
That was cool.
Everything was done safe because you can today, and so you should. We took a lot of time with all the actors to make sure that they knew we don't want you to get hurt. And thank you so much for being here and talking about our film. We really, really appreciate it.